What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Coach Joe Strong, here to bring you another powerful episode of the Business of Strength podcast, where you can hear the tips, tools, and interviews to turn your passion for strength into a profitable business you will love and be proud of. Just a friendly reminder that January 9th and 10th is our sales summit right here in New York at the Nyack Hotel. It's 2 days of nonstop selling, learning about sales, mastering the art of sales, and listening to some of our amazing mastermind members talk about their sales process and the tips and tools that they're using to convert more members into raving fans and fill up their gyms. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be great. Myself, Dan, and Adam are talking. Keynote speaker Nikki Cass, aka Coach Al, is closing it out and doing the keynote speech. Nikki's awesome. He's been a member here at the gym for a while, and he's a super sharp entrepreneur, turning his social media influence into a real profitable business that'll last a lifetime and become a legacy. He's got some great people in his corner, aka like Jesse Isler, Gary Vee, and so forth. And so he's really taking the opportunity and the firestorm that is his social media presence and turning that into a real business. He's going to show you how he does. He can show you how to convert, your social media and content creation into real sales. And, we have Emily Neff speaking. She is one of our mastermind members. She has an all-girls gym out in Pennsylvania, and her gym does incredible. And she's an incredible entrepreneur. So she's going to talk about selling to a niche market and really niching down for sales success. We got Derek Talish of Rebel Strength. We have Noam Tamir of TS Fitness in the city, right? He's going to talk to you how he's, really refined his sales process and dominated probably the most competitive market in the country, maybe other than LA and Miami. You got New York, LA, and Miami, like the three hardest markets to make it and break through as a gym. He's got a multiple seven-figure business that crushes it in Manhattan. And he's going to teach you the secrets there. And we're going to do lots of live selling. So you're going to have to sell, baby. We're going to have, almost like a sales speed dating where we're going to have different scenarios set up. You're going to practice your pitch. You're going to practice your sales process. We're going to refine your sales process and go through it. And it's going to be a great 2 days of learning. That's going to be a lot of fun. So for a couple $100, if converting more members, getting more sales, selling higher ticket items is something that intrigues you, check the link in the show notes. You go to sales@businessstrength.com to check that out, and I'll put the link in there. All right. My guest today is a really amazing coach, a good friend, and someone who we've been doing business with as a client for years now, and that's Coach Billy Armstrong. Billy is the head strength coach. He is the head basketball coach at Bergen Catholic High School. He's done an amazing job. He's a perennial state championship team. They're nationally ranked at times. He's sent multiple people to very high level, college organizations. He's going to have several people, vying for the NBA. And he's just a great guy, and he gets it. He runs a super profitable and amazing basketball development business on top of his coaching called Hoopdreamz, where he has AAUs, skills and drills, kids camps, and things like that. Him and his wife run that. They've done an amazing job. I remember when Billy was coaching out of like CYO gyms in the back of like churches and stuff like that way back in the day, in the early 2000s. And now that business is incredible. It's thriving. It's very profitable. He's going to talk a little bit about that and what that is. But the one thing that I really get from Billy is his ability to coach, connect, lead, and build culture. You're going to hear so many acronyms and sticky words and little cues that he uses to motivate and inspire young athletes to perform at their very best, to stay on track, to hold the course, right? And there's so many great clues here for those of us who are coaching individuals in their fitness, right? He's just selling a different product. He's selling, basketball skills and drills. We're selling fitness skills and drills. And, motivation is one of the most important factors in people sticking to the plan and being excited about their gym and coming to the gym, right? So, as a lifelong strength and conditioning coach, I think our jobs are part X's and O's, part accountability, right? Coach, part, psychologist and mentor. and then, entertainer, right? You got to kind of have all those things together for people to really be excited about coming to your gym over and over and over again, hopefully for years and years and years, right? It's like some of our clients have been around for, 15, 16, 17 years, right? 18 years, even some of them, since the very, very beginning. So that's a humbling thing to think about, that somebody has been willing to spend their time, energy, and money with you for that period of time. And I think a lot of it has to do with, the way in which you conduct your business. So Billy talks a lot about the culture he creates and some of the techniques he uses, this me first mentality, which sounds counterintuitive to this whole we team thing, but he really focuses on each individual getting their bucket filled, getting what they want out of their game, out of their business, out of their life. He talks about, having structure and accountability in your own personal home, right? And how that flows over to your business. One of the most impactful things, Billy spoke at our Underground Strength Con a couple weeks ago, and one of the most impactful things was what we call the quit list, right? And we talked a lot about it on the podcast about how most people are held back in life and in business and in coaching and in skill, whether you're an athlete or a businessman, because of the things that they do, and they have too many things vying for their time. They're, as we like to say, stepping over $100 bills to pick up nickels, right? And because they have all these little things pulling them in different directions. And if they just quit doing a few things or quit a few people in their lives, right? We see that a lot in professional sports where, athletes have, a group of hanger-on, friends, family members and stuff that really drag them down and drag them backwards into the mud. And you got to quit people sometimes. You got to quit doing things sometimes. You got to quit staying up late. You got to quit eating like crap, quit playing video games. As he likes to say, he gives kids a quit list. And he said, the kids that quit the things that hold them back excel tremendously. So check this podcast out. It's amazing. Billy's a great friend. He's a phenomenal coach. You're going to learn so much and take so many cues about creating sticky language in your business that helps to motivate, inspire, and drive people to success. Billy Armstrong, head coach of Bergen Catholic Basketball, Hoopdreamz Basketball Development. I'll put the links in the bio. Definitely follow Billy at Coach Billy Armstrong on Instagram. He's just a great dude, and you will be hard pressed to find a guy who gets it and loves and passionate about basketball, passionate about helping young athletes get better. So this is the business of strength. Coach Billy Armstrong. Let's rip it. Hey, I'm here with Coach Billy Armstrong from Bergen Catholic. I'm really excited to have you on, Coach. Just to give some people some context, we had Billy come a few weeks ago and speak at our Underground Strength Con. He got a standing ovation. I think it was one of the most impactful and powerful talks at the conference, and his tips and tools for leadership, galvanizing a culture, and really just improving what I would call like your ability to take action and focus is really the things that separate champions, from the regular people in the world. So, Coach, thanks for taking a few minutes to come chat with us and reiterate some of the things that you talked about at the Underground. It was awesome having you there, and I know you're super busy, so thanks a lot.
Oh, thanks, Joe, for having me. I really appreciate it. It's really, really an honor. So, as you guys know, my feelings towards Varsity House and you guys, and obviously you, Joe, and Dan, and the relationships that we've built over the years. So, I've trained there. My players trained there. Being part of the Underground was just, I was really blown away by such high level stuff. So, super excited to be on this podcast and really grateful to be given the opportunity.
Thanks, man. Obviously, you're a basketball coach. You're on the skill side of things, but training's a big part of your life too. And I know you and your family kind of center yourselves around personal fitness and health, right?
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about your journey, Billy, about, so for people that don't know, a little background, how'd coaching become the thing? Was there always maybe an intrinsic draw towards coaching? I think it's for a lot of people, I know like myself, it was kind of a calling. I really didn't realize it until I realized more about myself. And I look back and said,
Yeah.
man, the reason I started coaching was because I had this void in my life and I saw an opportunity to mentor young people like you do.
Yep.
What got you here to where you are today?
Yeah, so Bergen County kid, Northern Bergen County. I joke with a lot of people. I'm a suburban kid, so I enjoy the suburbs and things. So, but I got the opportunity to go to Bergen Catholic High School, which was really life changing for me. and they got some of the best and brightest athletes and students at Bergen. I was not that. I was an average athlete. I was an average student. I am a big believer in environment and culture. So I kind of got submerged in this environment and culture. There were some older kids there that were at school that were doing some things. I was like, man, I wonder if I could do that. So I got there, and the story is pretty simple. Some people in Bergen County have heard it 1,000 times, but I was lucky enough to make our freshman basketball team. They took 12 guys. I was like the eighth man. And from that point, I just became absolutely obsessed with the game of basketball getting better. And the oak tree doesn't grow overnight. It does take time. So we all know that there's a process to it. But over a short period of time, I guess from my freshman year to my junior year, by the time I was a junior, I wasn't the eighth man anymore. I had 12 Division I scholarship offers. Wound up winning state championship in high school. Got to play with a great team and great players and stuff. So when I was all said and done, I went to Davidson College. Got to play for a Hall of Fame coach there, and Bob McKillop, who's like a second dad to me. Tremendous and such a great school. Steph Curry, who played at Davidson. I didn't play with Steph, but Steph made Coach McKillop famous. But Coach McKillop, in my eyes, was a Hall of Fame coach prior to that. So I got to play there for 4 years, live out every basketball dream I can imagine. When I was done playing, got the opportunity. Somebody saw me, got the opportunity to go overseas, play professionally for 7 years. 3.5 was in Belgium, 3.5 was in Kosovo. Life-changing experience, of course, as a young man, just getting to see the things that I got to see and meet the people that I got to meet. So it was interesting because I became obsessed with getting better at basketball during that entire journey from my freshman year until I stopped playing, which was about 28 years of age.
Hmm.
So I got to play a lot longer than most people.
Yeah,
And as I look back on it now, it's so interesting because I became obsessed and I just wanted to get so much better and improve. And what I'm kind of learning now is that that whole journey was actually preparing me for what I do now, to be a coach. And it's just kind of interesting because it was like, this was all about me as a player, me, and I'm learning all these things. And now I go back and I've been coaching for a long time, 21 years now. And it's like, wow, man, that actually was really preparing me to do what my mission in life was to coach young people and now to coach other coaches. So that's kind of
that's
my short
fantastic.
story. Yeah.
Awesome. In a 5 minute nutshell, minus all
Yeah.
the grit, hard work, and stuff like that. Talk to me a little bit. I think one of the things, like, at least for me, like, it's an amazing opportunity, I think, as a young person to go to college and then being able to obviously go into a big school. I unfortunately, stayed local for, I went away for a year, but had to come home. My mom had gotten sick, and, so I
Mm,
stayed local. I commuted to school.
yep.
I worked my butt off all the time. And I really felt like I never really got that, that college experience of being out of the house. Although I was on my own, I worked, I had my own apartment, I moved out very young and
Sure.
stuff like that. So I had a different life experience, but like going away and the combination of, being really immersed in an awesome culture with great mentors around you. Talk to me
Yeah.
about what you see, like how important is it for everybody, whether you're, in our cases, approaching middle-aged man, right?
Yep.
In our mid to late 40s, and young people, to have a mentor, to have people around them that believe in them, help them, and call you out on your bullshit. That's what a good
Yeah.
mentor should do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's so key and so essential. At the time, it's like you don't like realize sometimes as you're going through the process that this is a figure in my life now that is actually what I call like changing my stars and changing my eternity. So at high school, I had that opportunity. Obviously, at college, and then overseas, I had that opportunity too when I played in Europe, just in a different way. You know, just from example, like one of the cities I played in Kosovo, it's like a 99% Muslim country. And as a young man, here I am, like this, Catholic from North Jersey, living amongst that culture. So it was really like eye-opening from the standpoint of just like I think it helped me become a better coach
What a
because
perspective it gives you.
absolutely. And it's just more like, that my way isn't the highway. There's other ways to do things. And then I think the thing that really has helped me is just one, being that lifelong learner, really trying to learn. And that's one. And then the other part, I think it's really helped my coaching is because I coach kids from all kinds of different backgrounds. It's just being like accepting and open to where people come from and how they do things and stuff. So I've had tremendous mentors in my life. that have just absolutely changed everything. But then just keeping that open-mindedness in terms of just different ways of doing things, how different cultures live. So it's really helped me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you heard me talk about it a little bit at Underground. I always, obviously I talked about it from the marketing standpoint where like one
Yep.
idea, one conversation, one email can change your life. But I think about it like obviously that all starts with a person, right? The majority of ideas that I've ever had about business or marketing or whatever came from meeting another human that had
Yeah.
those ideas and thoughts ahead of me, right? So, whether it was one of my longtime clients, Lance, who bought me that on my very first when I opened a gym, I was training his kids, bought me Think and Grow Rich, right? And it sat on my
Yeah.
sat on my desk collecting dust for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And when we
Yep.
finally opened up the second facility, when I partnered up with Dan and we opened the second facility in 2009, Lance says to me, "Did you read the book yet?" And I said, "No, I
Yeah.
haven't." And he's like, "Dude, you got to read that book." He's like, "It'll change everything."
Right.
And I remember reading the book and be like, "Damn, I should have read that book 3 years ago."
Yeah.
And
No,
it
no, for
really gave
sure.
me a lot of perspective. So it's usually like a person that's evolved. One person, one person's ideas, one person's belief in another person can really help change their whole perspective on self-talk, which you talked about a lot,
Yeah.
the thoughts and
Yep.
message that you tell yourself every day, which we'll get
Yeah.
to in a minute. And
Yep.
I think confidence is a superpower.
Yeah.
And for me, obviously, I found my own personal confidence in the gym, lifting weights. I think, I associated being big and strong with being badass or being cool or whatever you
Sure.
want to call it, right? And I think I like a lot of guys who like lifting like I did. It was kind of like body armor, right? You build yourself
Yeah.
up. The girls thought I was good looking or whatever, and
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
jacked, right? I had jacked guns
Yeah.
at the beach, right? And the dudes thought I was cool because I was big and strong, right? And it was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Now everybody respects me in a sense, and that builds your confidence. And I look at it from the same perspective of sports. Sports is a melting pot. When you're on a sports team, you got kids from all different, especially at Bergen Catholic, where you're getting kids from all different areas of the
Yeah.
state, right? You have different
Yep.
socioeconomic babackgrounds, different religious backgrounds, different, different from all over, different family circumstances and things like that.
Yeah.
And, together working as a team and I think having those people, around you and believing in you builds a tremendous amount of confidence. So, talk a little bit about like some of the things that you do as a coach to help, instill a culture of winning, a culture of confidence, right? Because you don't get to win state titles without having a real intrinsic self-belief in yourself and the program. And you showed a picture, or Dan showed me through the picture. It's like at the ethos at Bergen Catholic, like nobody beats
Yep.
Bergen Catholic, we beat ourselves, right? So it starts with a
Right.
belief. Talk to me a little
Yeah.
bit about some of those core beliefs that you have.
Yeah. So I think it's a little bit different. I think it's a little bit different and I guess unique from how a lot of coaches look at things. We always start with the me. We had this conversation
Yep.
yesterday. I asked our team, like, give me the definition of a winner. And they all kind of, well, they said, well, he's a hard worker, he communicates, he leads, all this kind of stuff. So and I basically said the definition of a winner is me. So I think it really starts from that standpoint, like creating that belief within yourself. So that's really, really important. And then we have this concept in our program. It's called Me First for Us. A lot of coaches, it's just like you got to be about the team. You got to be about the
Hmm.
team. It's team, team, team. And you know, I don't know if it works with this generation of young people, to be honest with you.
Sure.
But with
It's a
that
good
being
point.
said, yeah, and I mentioned this at Underground was just we kind of we take the position of that you're on the airplane, you put your oxygen mask on first. So that's why I'm so into fitness too, where it's like I'm trying to get all my players and myself to the highest level we can. That elite level. And then you take your all those unique strengths and gifts that you've developed, and now you help our team be successful. So because we start with that me part of it, that helps build the individual like self-confidence. I will tell you about the confidence for me. I think a lot of people have it wrong, and I don't mean to be disrespectful. I think people are waiting to feel confident, and they think
Yeah.
confidence is a feeling. Confidence is not a
Yes.
feeling. Confidence is an action. Like you do
Yes.
confidence, you
Yes.
know. And going back, Joe, to like we're talking about mentors. It's just like you never know who you meet at Underground or who you meet in a certain situation or somebody you see, and it's like they potentially become this mentor for you, and you don't even realize it. But what happened was you didn't have the confidence to put yourself out there and go say hello or introduce yourself to them. So I do believe you, like, confidence is superpower. I think it's the number one skill you need in basketball players and business. And
Yes.
confidence is not a feeling, it's an action. So we have the pillow test in our program, and the pillow test is pretty simple. At the end of the day, two things are going to happen. You're going to put your head to that pillow, and you're going to be like, you're going to say, as you review your day, we all do it
Mhm.
unconsciously or consciously, and it's
Sure.
going to be like, man, I'm glad I did that. Or you're going to be like, I wish I had done that.
Yep.
And I reminded my players actually yesterday, are you going all out? Are you going all out? Or are you holding back? I think
Yeah.
David Goggins says that most humans live, they live up to their 40. They're basically only playing at 40%. They have another
Correct.
60%. So I upset a lot of people yesterday at Bergen Catholic because we have a whiteboard in our gym, and we put different notes and we meet. And sometimes there's football players, different coaches, different people going through our gym. And on the board, I have down college football is a fraud. So now it's like, I'm pissed. I'm like pissing some people off. And it's like, but it was in this concept of like, are you going all out? Are you going absolutely all out? So like, there's been a lot of like fights or like brawls in college football, I guess, recently, right? The Michigan Ohio State game, I guess there was a brawl, and there's police with tear gas and stuff. And I'm thinking like they didn't go all out. Like, if you went absolutely all out and left everything out there, like how do you have any energy to get in a brawl after the game? And then I joke with our team. I said the people that go all out at a college football game is the band and the cheerleaders.
Yes.
Because if they're down 63-0, that guy on the trumpet is like going. The guy on the like he's
Yeah.
going hard. 60 up
Yeah.
63,
Yeah.
down 63. The cheerleaders is the same thing. So
Yeah.
I think confidence is an action. I think it's something that you do. And life is really about going all out. And at the end of the day, it's, I'm glad I did, or I wish I had.
Yeah.
And that's the pillow
I think
test
that's
for
all.
us.
It's the unfortunate reality of how a lot of people live their lives, right? And I hate to, stereotype because there's so many
Yeah.
great hard workers out there, but
Yep.
I think everybody can look at themselves a little bit and say, "Damn, I could have done a little bit more," right? And and
Yeah.
and and when it comes to business, like or sports, there's always a lot of that, right? Because every day, I mean, you see some people, and you got those guys that are like, "You got to grind every day,
Yeah.
4:30 a.m." You got to be like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Mamba mentality, right? In
Yeah.
basketball, you got to be in the gym. You lose
Yep.
the game. They should want to take the bus back to the gym and shoot free
Right.
throws all night, right? And
Yeah.
there's a reality that a lot of people maybe don't have that, but you want to be able to
Sure.
check the boxes. I always think like whenever I feel like we're winning as a team,
Yep.
to back up your point of action, it's always because as a team we're moving together as a unit, we're
Yeah.
rowing the boat, we're rowing hard, we're rowing fast, we're rowing consistently, right? So if it's I hit the marketing, I'm way ahead of the marketing and I got it
Yeah.
planned out well and I'm executing well. Dan's on top of the team and making sure he's controlling all the variables. Mike's on the floor selling and moving and shaking, right? And the coaching looks good. And it's like when all the pieces of the puzzle are all taking action, right? And everybody can look at themselves, like you said, put their head down on the pillow at the end of the night and say,
Yeah.
"We're doing it, man. We're doing it. I
Yeah.
busted my ass the last 3 weeks, 3 months, three
Yep.
years, whatever it is."
Yeah.
You start to. Do you feel like that starts to build like in the realm of confidence? Like again, there's confidence and there's cocky, right?
Yeah.
And I think the two things tread a fine line because I find
Sure.
myself being a little cocky sometimes, but in a positive way. Like I'm not like a dick to
Yeah.
people, but like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think we're pretty damn good at what we do, and I know
Yeah.
we work our asses off, right? So when I say
Yeah.
like, man, we're getting there, we're doing it, team. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna rip it in 25.
Yeah.
Do you like your players to have a little swag, and you want them to like catch wins because they're
For
contagious?
sure.
How do you keep it from getting too far and getting too big? And how do you keep kids on the line of like, hey, don't let the confidence turn too far down the road of cockiness so that they don't, stop doing the basics and stop doing the work or slow down
Yeah.
on the action.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're going through it now because they have all these like high school rankings come out preseason, and we've been we've been ranked fifth. We had one ranking come out last night that has this like your preseason rank number one in the state.
Hmm.
So my players sent that to me. They texted me. One of the things I said right away was that because I actually have there's a bunch of kids on our team now, that grew up as unranked players. Like no one
Hmm.
really kind of thought they'd be any good. and now they're like ranked players, and they're like everybody wants them on their team, kind of thing. So, so we're kind of going through that process now or whatever. One of the things I told them is just the way we do things, whether we win or lose, is that we plan, prepare, and practice like we just lost our last game. So we want that kind of mindset and mentality. I will tell you,
Mhm.
from you mentioned about the action piece, like taking action, like so we have a thing called ACE in our program, ACE, action changes everything. Joe, because just as a
Mhm.
coach and the kids that I'm training, but we have sticky language. We have these
Mhm.
triggers. It's got to be something that's memorable. They can remember it. It reminds them of something. It triggers something right away. So
Yep.
but from the confidence to the cockiness part of it, one is just like we want this like tremendous like belief in themselves and this tremendous like confidence in themselves. I do think taking action each day builds more confidence, and then you just start getting like
Yeah.
more self esteem. And then like our guys practiced yesterday, and then I hit them with, "Oh, okay, you guys are practice is over. They're exhausted, and now we're in the weight room, 4:30 to 5:15." And we got the varsity house workout, and I kind of caught them by surprise, and they're like, "Oh shit, we just finished. Right now, I got 45 minutes of a workout in the gym or whatever." So, but it's like pushing ourselves. So that's how we kind of get the confidence. Here's the thing for me personally, and I can speak for Joe and Dan and Varsity House. The difference between confidence and cockiness is, I think, a couple things. One, confidence is really something where you're the hardest worker in the gym, and then I also think you continue to learn and continue to grow. And the biggest
Yes.
thing, I think confident people treat other people's with respect and dignity. And I think
Yeah.
people that are cocky treat other people like shit. And I speak about like you, Joe, knowing you for a long time in Varsity House. It's just like you're a confident person. You guys believe in what you do at Varsity House, and you should. You've proven it over the years. But everybody that you run into, in my opinion, at least that's been my interaction, is like you treat them with respect and dignity, and you're always trying to help. So
Yes.
confident people, I feel people that are not confident, they act cocky, and it's a facade and it's fake, and they're always trying to knock others down, knock businesses down. This
It's a
trainer
great point.
sucks. He shouldn't be doing this, and I'm a better trainer and all that stuff because they don't actually have that confidence and belief in themselves.
I think that's a great point, Coach. I think sometimes, and I've spoken to a lot of other sport coaches. I had the amazing opportunity to meet with a couple of one of my friends in strength and conditioning is a guy named Rusty. He's the head strength and conditioning coach at Tulane. So we met up with Rusty and some of the guys. Like they had the Tulane Army game last week, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
they were in town. So we met up with them and had dinner with them, right? And
Sure.
I met with a bunch of coaches, and I do catch that the underlying theme is, focus on what you can do, focus on what you can change, stay in your
Yes.
lane. If you get caught up worrying about what everybody else is doing, and crying because, this guy's getting more playing time or that guy's
Yeah.
balls, my ball wasn't inflated properly, or, you
Yeah.
get,
Yeah.
all these stupid variables that kids, especially younger kids, will get like
Yeah.
fixated on. And it's like, dude, like, you're so focused on what other people are doing that you're not focusing on what you need to do to get better. And it's like, if
Yeah.
you just stay in your lane and you just stop. My personal thing is like, as you know, in the realm of strength and conditioning, a little bit unlike coaching, where the barrier of entry to become a trainer in the area is very minimal. If you told me you
Yeah.
wanted to be a certified trainer, you could be a certified trainer by Monday and open up a
Yeah.
gym if you wanted to,
Yeah.
right? So there's not a
Yep.
lot of clarity there in terms of professionalism. And I worked at a lot of places before I got to the place where I am now that were not great, right?
Yeah.
And we can get into the quit list. I think before there was Billy Armstrong teaching us about the quit list, right?
Yeah.
I was smart enough and able enough to say to myself, man, this is a pretty shitty place to be,
Yeah.
and I want to own my own gym one day. I'm going to
Yep.
start keeping track and making a list of all the things that this person does that I'm never going to do.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to make this quit list, if you will, of like bad
Yeah.
habits, bad customer service, bad training ideologies, and things like that. And do you feel like most of the time the kids, the athletes who defeat themselves, the coaches who defeat themselves, and in generalize the people who defeat themselves, it's because they fail to remove a lot of negative variables in their life, and they don't focus on, the four, let's call it 3 to 5 really key things that are moving them forward. They let all these
Yeah.
other intrinsic factors pull them in different directions and bog them down. How important is that? And tell me a little bit about your version of the quit list and what that means to you.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like, so I've been in business for like 21 years now.
Yep.
And sadly to say, I didn't really get this concept of the quit list until probably last March. And I think I've moved my business, my Hoopdreamz business, our program, me personally, just individually, forward more since March in these last, whatever it is, 6 months,
Hmm.
just by taking that first step of that quit list. And it's really eliminating all the things that's stealing and robbing you of your time, right?
Yes.
So that's really what it is. And like me being a basketball coach and I love watching sports, like that's on my quit list. Like I don't really watch sports. I mean, I do at times, but like I really eliminated that where like I'm up at night till like 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning watching like NBA basketball games. And it's like none of these guys are helping me grow my business. None of these are, so the news was a big one because the news is all negative. That's on my quit list. Staying up late, hitting the snooze, that's on my quit list. So I was able to eliminate all of these things which bought back my time because we're all going through this process now where it's like we have all this technology but nobody has any fucking time anymore because we're just being robbed of it. It's like the
Yeah.
doom scrolling, you're doom scrolling on
Oh,
social media. And so it's like honestly for me it's like that number one thing. It's whether you call it the quit list or the elimination diet, whatever you want to do. It's
yep.
like what can you eliminate? I've done it as a coach, I've done it with our program. A basketball coach, football coach, like we don't have 1,000 plays. We've eliminated this so that our players can be fast, free, and decisive when they play. I want to be fast, free, and decisive in my life personally. So I wake up
Yeah.
every day and I know the 3 to 5 things that are making it rain in my life, the most important things. So I go back to like 2 things. One, we have this concept of be faithful to the things that matter most in your life. So for me, it's pretty simple. It's fitness, family, and finances. It's our 3 F words.
Yeah.
So I'm going to spend 90% of my day fitness, family, and like finances. And
Yep.
obviously my finances is like a business that I have and my
Sure.
coaching program. Like that all is revenue generating for me. But it's like those 3 things. And then man, it's like so freeing. You just wake up, you don't feel, we're always going to have stress and anxiety about
Of
different things, but
course.
you feel like I know what the fuck I'm doing today. Like
Yes.
I know what I'm doing. It's like I get up in the morning and it's like I call it eating the frog. I do the most important thing, and then I go to the gym after I do the most important thing.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And then the other part is, I always tell the story about the Snickers candy bar. Like the Snickers candy bar was like the number one selling candy bar in like 1964, and then it's the number one selling candy bar in like 2022. And I'm like,
It's
holy
crazy,
shit!
right?
You talk about longevity and sustainability, and I think people are always asking like, what's changing? What's the newest workout program? What's the newest equipment I can get in my gym? What's the newest this, that, and the other thing? And I do the opposite. I always ask this question: is like, what's never changing? So you have a
Yeah.
gym business or whatever it is, you're into strength conditioning. I think, yeah, you need to be smart and you stay, evolved and be up on the times and stuff like that. But I think what attracts people to my business is what they know is that I know this will never change at Hoop Dreams. We have
Yes.
our honor code of trust, care, and commitment that will never change. As long as
Yes.
I'm the Bergen Catholic basketball coach, as long as they let me do this, there's some things in our program that will absolutely never change. And I think
Yes.
if you can find those 3 to 5 things that makes it rain in your life, one, two, find the things that are most important that will never change for you as a strength coach, as a business owner.
Yep.
I don't give a shit about cancel culture or whatever the fuck somebody else wants. These are the things that will never change. And you can't scare me into it, and it won't. And it's what I stand on. And like people like find that, and it's like, man, I want to be at this gym. Like I know. So I guess that's my 2 cents on really the quit list because you got
Yeah.
to get to that first because you're never going to find those and put enough time into the 3 to 5 things that make it rain. You're never going to stay true to your core values and principles if all you're looking at all the time is all this other shit that's robbing you of your time.
So many great takeaways, Bill. Thank you. I mean, obviously, I mean, it is extremely obvious to me as another professional, lifelong coach in a different realm, different product, right?
Yep.
Same ideology, just
Yep.
selling two different products in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Uh, the terminology, the acronyms, the key phrases, the memorable things. We do a lot of that
Yeah.
here. Swift,
Yep.
become, right? They're all different acronyms that we use for different things. You mentioned your three F's, right? Which I lit up like a Christmas tree because I have five F's, right?
Nice.
And I am in my house, right? Obviously, I wanted to ask you a little bit about maybe some of your personal life too,
Yeah.
because have you found it as you've mentored, young men for, 20 plus years now and been mentored, you saw great mentoring, you absorbed that information, you processed it, again, made your own list of things and how you would want to do things when maybe one day when you become a professional coach, you turn
Yeah.
that into a business. Now you turned it into one of the more successful programs in the country, and obviously one of the most successful in the state, in the tri-state. Has some of this stuff obviously flown over to your personal life? Do you and your wife and your family sit down? Do you have like your own family core values? Do you find yourself like the legacy of Coach Billy and dad husband Billy, kind of getting a little bit grayed, right? Where there's like, my wife sometimes has to remind me, hey, we're, I'm not one of your employees. This isn't Varsity
Yeah.
House,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I said, look, but culture, standards, core values,
Yeah.
I have changed my life,
Yeah.
right? And I know, and again, like at first with my wife, not coming from a lot of structure, we neither one of us really did. We didn't have families like that. I came from a
Yeah.
single mom. She came from an immigrant family who didn't speak English, right? So there was just like everybody was
Sure.
just working to survive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I'm trying to break that mold and create something different for our family. So I've instilled a lot of these practices in our home, right? Where we have our core values, we have our family mission board. We're having our year-end offsite meeting next week
Yeah.
where me and my wife go away and stay in a hotel for 2 days. We bring our son, we have a nice time. We just do like a little
Yep.
staycation, and we'll spend
Oh,
two
that's
hours
awesome.
planning each morning and kind of figuring out how is some of this like learning to be a better coach, the snowball effect of coaching other people. How has this helped to transform your personal life and some of the things you're doing with your own kids and so forth?
Yeah. Um, I think it kind of starts there, and I think that's the thing. So we stole it from the All Black New Zealand like rugby team, but it's like better people become better players, better
Sure.
people become better business owners. And I think, I forget who kind of said it, but it's like your bank account, whatever you have in your bank account is kind of representation of your personal development.
Sure.
And that's when I really had to like kind of get my stuff together personally, because it's like I want my business to grow, but I can't even like organize and schedule my own day. So it's like you can't give away what you don't have. Like you have to become it
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Sure.
So that's where it was just really like this has to be something where it's not only like from me as a coach, me in the business world, but it's just really like who you are as a person. So it all kind of bleeds together from that personal standpoint. I wish I could tell you like me and my wife kind of have it all together. We have three small kids, 8, 5, and 3. So a lot of times they're not very
No, you're getting crushed.
accommodating. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like trying to make 3 lunches and get 3 kids off to school and all these kind of things. But we
Yeah.
do there are certain things that my wife is really just big on like family dinner. And it's like
Yes.
we're not going to have family dinner 7 days a week because of just all the things that are going on, but we do try to get to like at least 3, and every chance we get we're all going to sit down at the table, and have that. So the one thing I do, and the one thing that we really kind of do, one is my wife said this the other day, and it's one of the biggest compliments I think I've ever kind of had. She said, I wish there was somebody that I could hire that could, coach her kids, our kids, with all the Billyisms and all the stuff that Coach Armstrong does. Because I always joke, but it's like I've been able to connect, and you've done this, Joe, with kids from Newark, kids from. I had a kid I coached from Nigeria, kids from Italy, obviously
Yeah.
kids from. I've been able to coach them and connect with them, and sometimes I feel like my 3 kids aren't listening, and my wife's just wish she could hire somebody like me. So it was like an awesome like compliment.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
will tell you, so I always say like your kids, your players, people you work with, they don't always like do what you say if you're a leader, but I do think they always model your behavior. And that's a
Yes.
big thing I tell coaches. And it's definitely with that with children. So my oldest daughter, April, she's always like, I'll start talking to her about coaching things. And she'll be like, don't give me your healthy coaching talk, Dad. I don't want to hear it. And she's only like 8.
Yeah.
But the funny part about it is, so now she's on a 3rd grade basketball team at St. Peter's in River Edge. And my wife was kind enough to sign me up as the head coach. Like I got nothing else to do. So yesterday I run a 2-hour practice at Bergen Catholic, 2:30 to 4:30. My wife runs April over to practice. I got to run this third grade practice from 5 to 6. I'm like losing my mind. And then I got
Yeah.
to do a Hoopdreamz practice at night at Bergen from 7 to 9. So that was my day
Oh
last
my
day yesterday.
goodness.
But my wife's there, and like, so now I'm using all these Billyisms, which my wife calls them, these little quotes and sticky language. But my daughter is there, and I'm not really coaching her, but she's actually listening,
Yeah.
so she's like picking up on like all of those
Sure.
things. So, as best that my wife and I can, it's like, yes, I want my 3 children to grow up, have families on their own, and I won't know if I've done a good job as a coach or a father until my players and my own kids have their own children and they're talking to their kids about TCC and being somebody
Yeah.
that can be trusted, somebody that cares about others, somebody that's committed to something bigger than themselves. So it's
That's
really
amazing.
hard for me.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I mean, and I'm not sitting here on some high. My wife, I try very hard. We do a lot, but like every family, you're drinking from a fire hose sometimes. And my
Yeah,
wife also works a busy career. So she's got a pretty demanding and busy finance job.
yeah,
So we do exactly the same thing. We plan as much as we can. We make dinner time as much as we can.
yeah,
And you mentioned it earlier on where, you have to fill up your own cup first. And one of the biggest changes that I made, and I think a lot of dads make this change when they have families, right? Is they just they move their day up way earlier. So
yeah,
I was always like, I always got up early. I always got up at like, because of the gym industry, you're usually up by like,
sure.
usually at the gym at 6, but I get up at 5, 5:30 or whatever. And
Yeah,
then because once I stopped training the morning sessions, once I became the businessman, right? I didn't have to
yeah,
do that no
yeah,
more. I would
yeah,
always get up at 6 o'clock. I never got up late, right? But like I
yeah,
never got up super early. But now, I mean, this morning I was up at 4, right? And
yeah,
I went to bed at 9, up at 4,
yeah,
right? What I've done is I've just protected my morning. So, like you said, I get up, I got my schedule, I get my brain dump done, I listen to a podcast, I work out, I do my morning routine is pretty locked down. I do
yeah,
my cardio, I set my day up.
yep,
I like to hunt. I shoot my bow usually for a couple shots in the
yeah,
basement,
yeah, yeah.
and then I
Nice.
go
Yep,
and then I train. And then by the time I'm done training, it's 7 o'clock, right? My family's getting up. My son gets up at like 7:15 or so, and I make
yep,
breakfast. We work out together as a family. We usually do whatever, could be 15 minutes, could be a half hour as a team. I make
yeah,
breakfast, and then I'm out the door, and I'm at the gym by 8:30 every day, right? And it's like
yeah,
that gives me that checks the box. And it's like, I don't have to sit
yeah,
here during the day. I get to do stuff like this without having to say to myself, shit, I got to make time to work out. Or man,
yeah,
I wish I had more time with my family. I make the time.
yeah,
I quit doing the
yeah,
bullshit in the morning, sleeping in
yep,
late,
yep,
staying up late so that I can't get up early, right? And I quit
yeah,
that stuff so I
yeah,
can be more present in the morning. And it's like, hey, I know everybody's here in the morning. We don't always get to have dinner together, but everybody's present in the morning. My
yeah,
wife's in the kitchen making the lunches for Antonio. I'm in
yep,
the kitchen making breakfast for everybody. He's sitting in his little stool chair hanging out with us, and we got 10 to 20 minutes of, unabridged family time every single
yeah,
morning. And I'll take that consistency 5 days a week versus, you know, one dinner every 2 weeks
yeah,
because everybody's so busy. So we try to do as best as we can. I love that stuff,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
And again, like the 3 F's, the family, fitness, finance, the only two that I have that are different. Those are if you think of a pyramid of success,
yep,
I have this on the wall in my house. I'll shoot you
yeah.
a text when
Nice.
but
Definitely.
the pyramid, the base of the pyramid is fitness. The next tier is family. The next tier is finance. After that is faculties. That's skill development and learning.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
at the top of the pyramid is fun shit you want to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
love
it's
that.
and it's
That's
it's
awesome.
like, when your fitness, your family, and your finance are locked down, and you're building your skill set, and you're happy, then you get to do the
Yeah.
fun shit, and that's the top of the pyramid, right?
Yeah. 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 No, definitely. Love
Yeah.
that. Love that. For
And
sure.
I stole that somewhere. I don't remember where, but it was very impactful, and I've
Yeah.
kind of made that part of our core values as a family and so forth. That's
Yep.
great.
No,
Bill,
that's awesome.
talk to me a little bit about coaching coaches. You coach kids for 20 plus years. You
Yep.
run a really successful coaching development company, Hoopdreamz. That's
Yep.
basketball skills and drills, AAU league, right? AAU
Yep.
teams and leagues. Been around. I can remember way back in the day, like a million years ago, like you were coaching like at CDW over, in the
Yeah.
back of the
Yeah.
high
Yeah.
school and stuff
I
like,
think we've rented every gym possible
every local
somewhere.
gym.
Yeah.
Like I remember Billy literally 2000. early 2000s. This would be 2005, six, right? You
Yeah.
know, early, like,
Yep.
you know, Bush League style, just a dude
Yeah. Yeah.
coaching basketball in a dingy,
Yeah.
kind of crappy, wobbly wood floor gym.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the Hoopdreamz and and
Yeah.
and and the product and process of that, and then now you're kind of educating coaches and you're doing coaching workshops and seminars. Talk to me a
Yeah.
little bit about that stuff on your private business side.
Yeah, I think it was kind of the natural, I guess, flow of things for me when I was done playing. There's always that idea of like coaching in college, coaching professionally. Part of it was honestly the finances part of that. Not that I didn't want to pay my dues, but it was like I came from playing overseas, and now you're the lowest man on the totem pole as a college coach, and you're making 15 grand a year,
Make
and you can
squaws
barely
whole, yeah.
survive. And so it wasn't something for me. And then the other part, like maybe just my personality. It was just like I really wanted to have something where if I made $100 a week, it was on me. If I made $100,000 a week, it was on me. That was just always been my thing. I didn't want to, wait for where it's like somebody's going to give me a 3% raise at some point because I was a good boy that year. So that was just always kind of me. So
Me
it
too.
started, yeah, it started out like, like I had one kid in his backyard in Ordo. I was literally making $60 a week. And it's just like, I'm living at home with my parents, and I'm just like, what the heck, man? And there was a lot of things like hard learning thing. I built the business like a lot of us do, where you're doing everything. And sometimes early on, you have to do that.
Mhm.
I will say, I don't think you have to do that anymore. And if I had to do it again, I would change it. And that goes back
Sure.
to our quit list. Like as fast as I possibly could, I would quit all the things that stealing my time in the business and outsource them to somebody else. Some people are like, well, I don't have the money to do that. I think if you really look at it, you potentially could, but little by
You make
little,
a
it
lot
kind of,
more money by automating, using technology
yeah,
now, like stuff
yeah,
like that. Like like even just like basic, point of sale system, CRM
yep,
systems, things like that. And it's like, wow, why didn't I do that
100%.
10 years ago? Jesus.
And the thing is, like, I think you don't look at the other side of the coin is like, man, like now I'm putting my time into like my zone of genius, the things I'm really good at. Like, I started this newsletter, back in March, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback on it. Like, that's what I should be putting my time in. And
Yes.
now it's like that's actually has grown my business exponentially, because I have like business people coming up to me and being like, hey, this was for my son, but I use this and I'm a lawyer and I just want a case. I don't know if that's exactly true, but somebody told me that once. And I was like, wow,
That's a
this is like pretty cool. So I would try to eliminate, quit, and outsource as fast as I possibly can if I had to do it all over again. And then honestly, I have to give credit where credit's due. It's like once I met my wife, she was working in the TV industry, and she didn't love her job. MSNBC, she was working at the old MSNBC like 20 years
Mhm.
ago, and she didn't love it, whatever. So then it was kind of in between, and I kind of roped her in because I was a good coach, but I was not good in business. I wasn't good from personal time management, organization, all of those things that a lot of us, when we get into coaching, we're not good at.
No.
And she kind of came on board, and she hasn't left, knock on wood. So as much as I've driven her absolutely like nuts, so her and I built this Hoopdreamz thing where we get 1,000 kids or more a year. Our summer camps are pretty much sold out. Like we get 120, 140 kids a week. So it's so much like blood, sweat, and tears that she's done. And at times
Sure.
it does strain our relationship as husband and wife because it's like
You're
sometimes
working
it's like
together a lot,
we're
yeah.
yeah, but it's worked. It worked for us. It like can be done. Um, but it's grown and grown and grown. But it's because of like my wife and I are just our personal principles. Like we're not going to put out a product that's not elite level. We're not going to shortcut. We're not going to cut corners. We're going to put our whole heart in it. And I
Mhm.
think people like feel that. And the biggest thing for us and my wife too, it's like me as the coach part of it, but her from the logistics standpoint, admin part of it. The families feel like these people really fucking care. And if
I
we
was just
make a
gonna say that,
mistake,
yeah.
if we make a mistake and messed up, like we're the first ones to put our hands up. Hey, that was wrong. That's unacceptable. Give us an opportunity. Like I'd send emails out to like my email list saying like, looking for feedback, and I like complainers. And like right away, people are like, "What the hell is this guy talking about?" Because like what happens is in business, it's like I joined Varsity House Gym. I didn't really have a good experience. I just leave. Joe doesn't know why. As opposed to I'm joining Varsity House. I'm not having a great experience. Joe has created this culture of feedback where he
Yeah.
wants it to know. And now I reach out to Joe. I was like, Joe, this is kind of fucked up, whatever. I don't know. not that this
Yeah.
happens at varsity, but a coach,
It does. Yeah,
showed up 5 minutes late.
nothing's perfect. Things slip. I
Yeah,
always say the best lessons are learned in the complaint box.
yeah.
You
So
know.
like I've kind of created this like environment where like you don't have to feel uncomfortable to say, "Hey, I'm pissed off. I didn't really like this," because now it gives me and Lauren an opportunity to fix things to see now if I can give you a better experience.
Hmm.
So like as much as I like the right away, the ego part of me is like we're the best and we don't do anything wrong. Like I got to check myself and be like, you know what? There's something here. Can I? So that has really helped us grow this, I guess, business credibility, reputation. Not everybody comes to Hoop Dreams just like in the strength training world, any dad, and I'm no disrespect to dads among any dad can go start a team tomorrow. Any
Hmm.
dad can go start a camp. And like there's everyone I feel like every other day there's a new team on a new corner,
Sure.
you know. But there's things that we're not going to change. And then the one thing you'll come to is like these people really care and we love it. And we don't have a lot of attrition. I mean, it's like 2%.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
personally, obviously, just knowing you from being in the county for years, working together for like the last 10, but being in the county together for over 20 years and knowing of you, the feedback that I've ever heard was, exactly what you said, like your passion for basketball, your passion for coaching kids, your want to help people. And I always felt like you always thought when your product's good and your passion level and give a shit factor that, we talk about
Yeah.
that GSF is really high,
Yeah.
it's never just a money grab, right?
Right.
It's never just a money
Exactly.
grab. Like we charge what we charge, and yeah, okay, so we're one of the more expensive gyms in our
Yeah.
area. It's not because we're just trying to grab people's money. It's because I invest in a world-class facility, a world-class
Yeah.
team. We hire educated, motivated, and inspired coaches. We spend an enormous amount of money on continuing education, certifications, and process. And,
Yeah.
just like every other business that's grown, we go through growing pains. And sometimes a person, a process might slip through the cracks. And
Yeah.
like you said, I'm the first one to stand up and call that person directly. Hey, I'm so sorry that happened. Let me figure out how we can make it right, right? And,
Yeah.
and I think that accountability, it says a lot about who you are, right? And it says a lot
Yep.
about your personal core values as a human, right? Because if you're willing to eat shit and say I'm sorry, right?
Yeah.
That means that we can work together. If you don't say
Right.
sorry, again, like on the customer service side of things, when you like you said before, like Joe doesn't know and Joe doesn't like pretends like it
Yeah.
doesn't happen,
Yeah.
that person leaves, it's like I'm never going back there. Those guys
Right.
suck.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
spent whatever. I spent $1,500 there training,
Yeah.
and I never got even so much as a call or an apology when I canceled my membership. And it
Yeah.
was like, all right, that's not good. Like, I don't want to hear
Yeah.
that. So when we sit down in our team meeting, we specifically review every single client who cancels or
Yep.
pauses their membership. And I want to know why. Why did they leave?
Yeah.
What was the
Yeah.
issue? Did we speak to them?
Yeah.
Did we do an exit interview? Did we send them an exit survey? Did we call them on the phone? Right? Stuff like
Yeah.
that. And it's like, yeah, well, you could make excuse. My CFO, this guy Mike had a great thing, right? We used to get very emotional about clients who left, right? And just
Yeah.
like any business, clients leave, right? Just like your
Yep.
business, kids time out and they move on in life or
Yep.
whatever, right? They graduate high school and they stop playing AAU or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And clients leave for whatever reason. Most of the time, it's life happens, right? Kids, family move, they're whatever, right? But he said, Joe, you have to take the emotion out of it and get granular on your business. When
Yeah.
people leave, whether you could sit there in a meeting and say, well, that person stunk. They never worked out hard. They never wanted to do
Yeah.
anything I told them to. But in actuality, it's A, they're not paying
Right.
anymore. And so they're not a
Yeah.
client, and you can make all the
Yep.
excuses you want. And B, whatever you want to tell yourself, 50% of the equation is you.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like every dude who gets divorced.
Yeah.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean? It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
you can tell me
Yeah.
whatever you want. No,
Yeah.
but 50% of the equation is you. The
Yeah.
most likely in there somewhere is a mirror
Yeah.
that you should be looking at and saying, damn, this person never got fit. If I go back and say, were we reaching out to them weekly to make sure that they were using their sessions? Did we give them a
Yeah.
nutrition guide? Did we ever
Right.
offer them an opportunity to come in and meet with the nutrition team? Like, were there things that we could have done? Just like employees too. Every employee
Yeah.
that leaves Varsity House, Dan and I sit and obsess over and beat the hell out of ourselves over what could we have done better as leaders. Damn,
Right.
like they came in just like every assistant coach, like every
Yep.
player that probably comes to your team, they come in with
Yeah.
high like we're excited about this person. We're excited about their opportunity. We're excited about having them as part of our team. And sometimes it fizzles out. And I think it's an introspective moment to go back and say, shit, what could I have done better as a leader? What could I have done? What tools
Yeah,
didn't I not give them for them to
yeah.
understand what they had in front of them? So great
No,
perspective.
100%. Yeah. I really like it, just there's so many things there, Joe. And if I just touch on like one thing, and so I've had some really high level players that have played for me that have transferred out to other schools. So I've taken
Hmm.
that personal. People have left our program, left our teams, things like that. And I've taken this approach, and it's not easy. It's definitely a challenge, but it comes from me getting into this area now of coaching the coaches. And
Hmm.
it's really just like one of the things I always tell myself. There's really two things. One, everybody I coach is somebody's pride and joy. Two, can you love them for their flaws? So like you have a guy on your
Mm.
staff or a coworker, can you love them for their flaws? Like, man, that's hard. And like people that are around me, like I always, you know, I think there's a crisis in coaching these days. I got to be honest with you. There's a lot of
Yeah.
screaming and yelling at kids. There's a lot of
Yes.
MFing kids, all these things. And there's this idea of if you're positive, if you love the kids, that you're soft. And I would disagree. And I would argue that
No.
what I do is so much harder. Like, you know how hard it is to love somebody for their fault? A kid that's
Yes.
pushing back, or a kid that's left my team. Now I run into him at a game, and I know that kid feels awkward because now he meets me, and I got to make sure that he's not going to feel awkward. Hey, Johnny, how's it going? Great to see you. Because sometimes people just leave because they want different opportunities, different things. And I think, the word kind of gets out, but it's like the way you treat people that leave your gym, the way you
Yeah.
treat people that leave your team, and you still treat them with like dignity and respect, like, that's who we want to be as people. I think it says something about you. But then I feel
Yeah.
like it attracts people to like, man, like this guy didn't badmouth me because I left his team or I left his gym. And no, that's not who we are because we're
No.
faithful to the things that matter most. And that I think in the coaching world, like, the guy that's screaming and yelling and MFing a kid is like to a certain degree, like getting glorified. And I
Sure.
don't know. So that really kind of led me down that place of
That
like,
makes it a big difference though. I think we call it here, we call it no skunking, right?
yeah,
And what I
yeah,
mean by that is
love it.
if when we're in a team meeting, and this is especially true, and this is a great coaching point for anybody in the gym or sports space, right?
Yeah,
You as the leader, you're the head coach. So technically, just like me being the founder, visionary,
yeah.
of the company, like kind of the buck stops with my mindset and ideology, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And if me, Dan, and let's say Adam are in a team meeting with our crew, and we're going down the list of clients who left the gym or who have complained about certain things, and we're beating them up like that guy's this person is this lady, she
Yeah.
doesn't work hard, and that's skunking, right? And
Yeah.
that infects everybody else's
Oh
minds
yeah.
with
100%.
the same thoughts. So now that young coach who's 24 sitting in that meeting goes down there and sees that client, is like, that guy's a dick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even
100%.
know him, right? Like
Yeah.
I've had 10
Yeah.
years of interaction with him. So kind of like, again, like it'd be like me and you hanging out, and like our speak towards each other might be a little looser than we would talk to certain other people because
Sure.
we've known each other for a bunch of
Yeah.
years.
Yep.
But in a professional setting, in a business setting, in a coaching setting, you have to be very careful because that young guy, you infect his brain with those thoughts and
Yeah.
ideas. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Like, I don't want them ever leaving here. I want my coaches to see a client who left at the
Yep.
Starbucks in town and be like, "Hey, Joe, how are you?
Yeah.
When are you coming back to the gym, man? We miss you." I don't want them to be like,
Yeah.
"That guy was an asshole anyway,"
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's what we were saying in a meeting, right?
Yeah.
So very careful about that. And I think like
Yeah.
here's a funny antidote, right? Obviously, as a young coach, I was not as smart and as stupid, and I didn't think
Yeah.
about these
Me
things,
too.
right?
I got to put my hand up on that.
And I would blow people off and like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
guy sucks.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to bring your kid here anymore,
Yeah.
right? And one day I'm in town here in the center of where all my business is, and I'm
Yeah.
like ripping somebody to another person, and that
Yeah.
person's standing right behind me, walking up behind
Oh
me, and,
wow.
and I just
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
being like, I just want to take
Yeah.
my shoe and just like lick the
Yeah.
bottom of it, and like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
and I literally from that moment on, I was like, man, I have such a fiduciary responsibility to hold myself
Yeah.
to a higher standard as a small business owner and a business leader and a community
Yeah.
leader in our area, right? And I changed my perspective forever because I was like, you know what? Nobody's actually an asshole. Everybody leaves for their own reasons. Everybody,
Yeah.
when people leave Varsity House, they're going to their own life problems, their kids'
Yep.
problems, there's work
Yep.
problems and things like
Yeah.
that. So whatever their
Yeah.
decision was, it's
Yeah.
on them, right? And it's our job to make them feel like they're always wanted and welcome to come back here and be
Exactly.
part of our program. And it's like for
Yeah.
you, it's like a kid leaves another program, cheer them on. Cheer
Yeah.
them on. I hope you win.
Yep.
I hope you get that college scholarship playing for one of the
Yeah.
other rival schools or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And you can
Whatever
call
you
me anytime if you need me. And I always tell, like, some kids will wear different uniforms. It doesn't change this TCC honor code that we have. And I guess I'm like maybe old school from that standpoint, but like, I just raised, I was raised to believe from my father and grandparents that commitment lasts forever. That's just who
yeah.
we are. And you know, how we do
I think like in a world where I mean we don't have 3 more hours to talk about the NIL and what
Yeah.
that's doing to
Yeah.
sports, but
Yeah.
commitment lasts forever, and we're seeing how people's personal brands, their attraction to
Yeah.
what could be is waning commitment, and I think that's true
Yep.
for. I think it's true for employees. Again, we're lucky that we have some
Yeah.
really wonderful people who've stuck it out with us for a bunch of years, a la
Yeah.
Adam, Big Mike, right? And they've become actual
Yep.
partners in our business and so forth, and they're huge components of what we do here, right?
Yeah.
But I think a big part of why people fail in business or sports is because they just quit right at the point that if they just
Yeah.
waited a little bit longer,
Yeah.
everything would have turned around. And,
Yeah.
and and they just didn't
Yeah.
have the grit or the guts, or maybe they didn't have that mentor that we talked about to say, hey, dipshit, you got it pretty good there. Like that guy, they're
Yeah.
like, that guy's a great coach. That's a great program. They got a culture of winning. He gives a
Yeah.
shit about you. And
Yeah.
you're worried about, this guy's going to give you 3 more minutes of playing time.
I know.
Like, stick it out,
Yeah.
man. You made the commitment to come here. We spent all this money, time, and energy. Do the
Yeah.
thing. Do
Yeah.
the thing.
That's
You
one of the
know?
things I've had to accept as a coach, honestly, and it was one of the hardest things that I've accepted. And it's like I want to be a great coach someday. I'm trying to get better, trying to improve. I want to be a great business person and have a great company and all those things. And the reality is that at the end of the day, life experience will always be a better coach or teacher or business owner than me. So you have the employee, like we can go on about the employer-employee relationships, like those are so challenging. There's some
So,
things that will never change in that. Those are like, in my opinion, very challenging or whatever.
sure.
But at the end of the day, it's like you have that person that works for you, and it's like, oh, I can do this. I can do this better. Maybe you can. Maybe you can have a company and do it better than me, and I'll do this. And then they leave, and not saying it's negative or positive, but that choice leads them to a different life experience, and now through that experience, they've learned something. Hopefully, it's the same thing with players. A lot of times, it's like, when you're a coach and a business owner, you're almost like a parent. It's like it's not until
Yes.
your kids grow up and have their own kids that it's like, oh, now I know what mom and dad were going through. Now I know why they were doing this. A lot of times it's like the guys you coach, they all know better. The people that work for you all know better. And I think they think like, Joe shows up and, he pulls up at Varsity House with a Lamborghini and he's got everything going and he's the man. And meanwhile, it's like you pull up with a briefcase full of files and emails and text messages and calls and to-do list and you're a little bit stressed. Like, I think what they think is like different. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Obviously Dan and I have talked about it a lot on our podcast. I think that's one of the reasons why we've created financial clarity on the company with our entire team. We're very open book here with our money, and
yeah,
pretty much like all of our management team knows exactly how much the company makes, what all the numbers
yeah,
are. And the reason we do that is because we don't want people making up their own stories, right? And I don't want
yeah,
I'd rather people know exactly what's happening and have an
yeah,
honest picture of what's going on, because
yeah,
people do, like you said, people do have it's hard, right? I've been doing this a very long time. They forget that there was 20 years of standing on the gym floor, 50 hours a
yeah,
day, 60 hours a
right,
week, right, on the gym
absolutely,
floor. And I was a coach the majority of my career still. I've only been
yeah,
like a business guy where like I'm not really coaching for like the last 6 years, like about a year after my son was born. The
yeah,
year my son was born, I started titrating down my floor hours just so I could have a little
yeah,
more flexibility. But they don't realize that the business has grown exponentially since then, and therefore the workload on the business side has grown 10x of that, right? And
yeah,
and what seems like Joe rolls in at 8 and he sits in his office all day. He's probably in
yeah,
there. He's probably in there playing with his Transformers or some shit. I'm in there
I
playing
know,
video
yeah,
games,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like, dude, all the stress, every check. has
Yep.
my signature on it. All the bills,
Yeah.
all the mortgage, the rent checks, the lease payments, like all that's got mine. So when the business goes down or something happens, they're not coming after their homes and their bank accounts,
Yes.
right? It's on us.
Yeah.
So it is a different thing. But that's part of the dynamic of the employee employer relationship. I think we are always
Yeah.
gonna, we do. I think as just like you've taken some of the cues from being a great coach and valuing players and meeting them where they're at and loving them for their flaws, if as you say, we have a similar approach where it's our job to find. You mentioned, your zone of genius. It's
Right.
our job as coaches and or employers to find each person's zone of genius and where they're going to
Yes.
thrive within your business, right?
Yeah.
And here's the hardest part about that, because we're human and we're emotional bitches, right? All of
Yeah.
us to
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
degree, right?
Yeah.
Those wants, needs, and passions are going to change over time, right? And so like somebody like maybe like a Big Mike who came in as an intern, all I want to do is be the best coach. And it's like, okay, great. As Mike transcended in the company, we put him into a coaching role. He was an assistant director of training. Then he
Yeah.
became our head coach and director of training for a bunch of years. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, Mike's in his mid 30s, and he's married now, and him and his wife are building a family and building a life together. And he says to me, hey man,
Yep.
like, I've been the director of training for a decade, and I love it. And it doesn't have to be today, but like, I don't really see myself for the next 10 years being as excited as I have been for the last 10, standing
Yeah.
on the gym floor 50 hours a week anymore. Like, I'd
Right.
love to
Right.
have a
Right.
little bit more flexibility. And I'd also like to have a little bit more impact on the money side of things. And me and Dan almost fell off our chairs because when you have an
Yeah.
employee who comes to you with that perspective and an honest perspective, and also, hey, I want to die here at Varsity House and be the first employee that retires from this place. How do we make
Yeah.
that happen so I can continue to be excited about my career, my job, my progression, right? So it's our job because you could easily just be like the old ball coach or the old
Yeah.
stingy Italian gym owner who's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you just keep training, brother. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Don't
Right.
don't
Right. Yeah.
let me worry about the
No.
business. You do your thing. And it's like, all right,
Yeah.
if I do that, he might have been gone, right? He might have just said, you know
Right.
what? I'm never going to make the money I want. I don't feel fulfilled. I'm going to go drive a UPS truck and have a pension, get my benefits and
Yeah.
kind of do my thing. But instead, we had to really sit down and look at ourselves and be like, hey, like, what are we doing wrong as leaders? Because we're not putting people in the best opportunities for them to be successful. Some people are great coaches and want to coach. Some people have the sale of skills,
Yeah.
skill of sales, right?
Yep.
Some people are great connectors when it comes to other humans, right? And maybe there's some ways for us to, figure that out. That segues me in the last thing I really wanted to talk to you about, Bill. Tell me a little bit about the coaching coaches. I saw some videos. I know
Yep.
you're doing like a little coaching program. Tell me a little bit about what that is and why you wanted to do that.
Yeah, I think honestly, it was probably just the natural kind of flow of, I guess, my path and like journey. Um, but it really kind of stemmed from, okay, I have this really good successful business. I get to coach a lot of kids. I have this kind of goal of trying to reach 10,000 or more kids in my lifetime, and is there a way I can impact their lives and change their stars like coaches did for me or whatever. So then it's just kind of the natural, like, well, if you can get to some coach that coaches 10 kids or 20 kids or has his own camp, um, and help him. So that's really where it kind of started. The other thing too was just really what a lot of coaches are. It's just like helping coaches not go through some of the things that I've gone through in my coaching career, and also as somebody as a coach that owns like a business. So I've been obsessed with coaching now for the last 20 something years. I always have a block of time. I'm a time blocker,
Mhm.
block a time of day in my schedule where it's just for me becoming like a better coach. So I do think young people need coaches and teachers and mentors more than they ever have in any point in history of the world. So that's the other thing to me that's it's really just really really important. It started very small, really. In the beginning, it's similar to like I got other coaches calling me up for advice, and I was like, wow, okay. And I was like, well, how can I do this on a larger scale and really try to make a big difference here? And then this past fall, I did my first coaching clinic. I thought maybe one person would show up, and we actually had 60 coaches the first
Amazing.
time I did it. And then I was blown away by like the response. And I do have a very unique way of building relationship, building culture. We have a system. There is a system of
Yes.
how to coach, how to run a practice, how to build a culture. So basically, it's really just I want to give everybody those things. So I've actually filmed my own my first and only like coaching course that's not out there yet. Of course, like I think it stinks. That's probably not good marketing, but it's just like the part of us, it's the first one I've done, but I do think there's a tremendous amount of value in there.
Sure.
So we're taking that. And now I'm kind of learning. It's just like, it's almost like starting a whole new business from scratch where it's Coach Billy Armstrong. That's really the business.
Mhm.
And just helping as many coaches as I possibly can to really relieve some of the pain points that they go through, like playing time. Like I have a playing time system, playing time presentation that I present to
That's
parents and
great.
players. So there's all these things like
Oh, that
I
probably
don't, I
eliminates so much of the back and forth with parents. You just kind of show them, hey, I have this equals this equals this, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. And so you have it at Varsity House. It's
Yeah.
like you need a system for everything,
Yeah.
and like I used to think a system was like a real elaborate thing. And you'll laugh, Joe. Like some of my systems are written on like one piece of paper. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Here's the coach. I give it
Yep.
to my coach, like, okay, this is how we close down our gym. Here's the system. Here's the checklist. Go ahead. Because I used to like not have them because I'm just like,
Yes.
the system sounds so complex. And,
Yeah, yeah,
I need to hire somebody to create a system. Like,
yeah.
so, but yeah, I want to give these systems that I've helped. I mean, our offense has a system,
Yeah.
our offensive, all of these things. So our summer camp where we have 140 kids a week, me and my wife, we have a system. So that's
It's
really like
amazing.
giving that system to the coaches so it relieves these pain points.
I love it. A rising tide raises all boats, right?
Yeah.
I think you get to also spread the Billyisms, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But I think people need them. I mean, look, people learn in flurries of activity, right? And they
Yeah.
learn, you said it, we say it here, if it's memorable, it's repeatable, right? So
Yeah.
you have to
Yep.
get things to stick in people's
Yeah.
minds. And
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of being an excellent coach. Bill, tell everybody where the best places to get in touch with you. We'll obviously put some of the links in the show notes here, but if they
Sure.
if they want to get more Billy Armstrong in their life, where should they be going?
The first thing, which you're probably going to think I'm crazy, and I'm remiss that I did not do this at Underground. I wish I did. But I actually, anytime I speak to coaches or anything like that, I always give out my cell phone, and you
Okay.
can text me day or night. And I know it sounds like crazy and stuff, but it's the easiest way. And then I do take pride in responding to everybody within 24 hours.
Awesome.
201-527-0752. If you want to crank call
Amazing.
me or one of those things like Frank, I don't know what it is. Go
maybe
for it.
maybe
I
they're like
mean,
a Bosco kid, like that Bergen
yeah,
sucks.
yeah. And I have gotten a bunch of those. And the first place I go with that is LeBron James. I'm just like, wait a minute. I'm just like LeBron's the most criticized athlete in the history of sports. It's not because he sucks. So if
Yes.
somebody's gonna
No.
crank call me, it's probably because it's not because we're losing a lot of games and not
That's
having a
true.
successful business. So that's the first thing. And I just started it, honestly, my Instagram page at Coach Billy Armstrong. DM me there. I just learned what a DM was like a couple weeks ago, so I'm excited about that. So like I'm very responsive to that. And then my website for Hoopdreamz, it's just Hoopdreamz, Hoopdream. It ends with a Z
Yep.
.org. You can find all our information, all that stuff there. Those are probably the three best places.
Bill, you're the man, dude. I've loved our time working together, chatting together, growing and learning from each other. And
Yep.
you do an exceptional job. Thank you for putting so much goodwill out in the community that we both live in and
Yep.
raise our kids in. I hope one day when Antonio gets older, hopefully you're still coaching. You'll be one of those like
Yeah.
35-year-old veterans, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
surrounding one of the most important things that I look at as a dad is, who my son is surrounded by and the people that impact them. So thanks again.
Yeah.
You're the man. This was great.
Thanks so
I
much, Joe, man.
appreciate
I
you.
appreciate it. The relationship that you and I have, and with Dan and everybody at Varsity House, it's something that's really special to me. That goes way beyond like business and coaching and all of those things. So it was an honor to be on this, and I had so much fun. You and I both know we could go on for about 7 more hours talking about
For
coaching and
sure.
businessing and marketing. So thanks so much for having me.
You got it, Coach Billy Armstrong. This is the business of strength. We'll see you next time.